Hello and welcome to another webinar with the Small Business Center, where we present webinars to help entrepreneurs start, run, and grow their companies. I'm Rehan Abdul Mughni, and today our webinar is going to be on the essentials of search engine optimization. Just to give you a very brief agenda, it will be very briefly we will discuss why SEO or search engine optimization is important, and more importantly why Google itself in particular is important. I'm going to describe very quickly how Google works, and then I will get into the basics of how to optimize your website for Google in particular, and then very briefly I'm going to discuss beyond the basics. Just to set your expectations correctly, that this is a webinar on introduction to search engine optimization. I am not going to discuss any of the advanced strategies. What that means is that if you are already doing SEO or if you're familiar with SEO, then probably this is not the right webinar for you. If on the other hand you have been thinking about doing SEO and you don't know anything about SEO, then this will get you started with the basics of understanding what SEO is, what are the main elements of SEO are, and then move forward with then understanding the advanced strategies for SEO, and then you can start doing search engine optimization for your website or for your client's website if you are a consultant. So why is SEO important? We talk about social media a lot, and in this webinar I by no means are trying to give you an impression that social media is not important. It is important. However, that doesn't mean that other marketing channels are not important. Search engines is more often used than most other social media websites, with perhaps the exception of Facebook. Facebook, in terms of how many people use it on a daily basis, is very much tied to how many people use search engines on a daily basis. So 57% of the internet users use search engines every day. Some of us, I know myself for example, I use it more than once a day because I'm searching so often. From your own experience, you can probably see how often you are using search engines on your daily basis. So what does 57% of internet users really mean? From the search perspective, there are over 4 billion, that's a billion with a B, searches that are done every single day. The actual number is actually somewhere around 4.6 billion searches on a daily basis. That's a lot of searches that are happening on a daily basis, and some of those 4.6 billion searches may also be searching for services, for products, for businesses like yourself. And if your website is not optimized for search engines, then you may be missing out on some of that business. Now, Google itself is the 800-pound gorilla in the market. This is the latest figure that I have for the US alone from ComScore, and in July last month, 66.8% of that 4.6 billion searches were done on Google. The nearest competitor, which is Microsoft Bing, was nowhere even close to how many searches are done on Google, at a little under 16%. Now, this is the figure only for the US. If you look on a global perspective, then slightly over 80% of searches globally are done on Google itself. That's a lot of searches that you simply cannot ignore. And as I said earlier, most of the searches are done on Google. In the US, slightly above 3 billion searches are done on Google every single day. As I said, 4.6 billion is the overall searches, and slightly above 3 billion is just on Google. Now, going back slightly to the previous slide, what this list here are the major traditional search engines: Google, Microsoft Bing, Yahoo, Ask Network, things like that. What this table does not show are the non-traditional search engines, the new media, the social media search engines. So for example, searches are done not only on these websites, but also on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Pinterest. Those searches are not included in this table. And if you look at those social media searches, then the second most active search engine in the world is not Microsoft Bing, but YouTube. So if you look at from that perspective, YouTube is a very important search engine as well. But I'm not going to discuss that today here, but don't ignore the social media searches as well. The other thing you should not ignore in your marketing mix is everything that could be in your marketing mix. That doesn't just mean social media, that doesn't just mean search engine optimization, that doesn't just mean your website, but also potentially offline marketing as well. Those are important marketing channels that you should not ignore. And if you were on our webinar a couple of weeks ago, then you probably heard the webinar on getting publicity for your small business, which is the PR perspective. So you should not ignore all the other channels at the just for doing your optimization or social media or anything else. So I'm going to give you a very basic, very simplified version of how search engines work. There's a lot more to how search engines work, but this will get you started off how to do the SEO. Basically, this is what happens. Search engines send out robots or spiders to your website. They crawl through your website and they index in their own databases on their own computers every single page that they can find on your website. And they index every content on your website. That includes not only text, but also your images, your videos, anything else that you may have that may not be text-based. They can even index things like Word documents, PDF documents if you have those on your website. And if you have done it properly, they can even index content on Flash applications that you may have on a website. Having said that, I'm not a big fan of Flash, and to get your Flash content indexed on the website, you have to do a lot more than just basic Flash, but I'm digressing a little bit. So once the search engine has indexed all of the content on your website, then it's ready to give that content to somebody who's going to search for something like your business or your product. So a user goes into a search engine, let's say on Microsoft Bing, they type in the keyword that they're looking for, and they get a whole bunch of websites back. Now, these websites that come back depends on what the user has typed into the search engine and what information is available on your website. So, for example, if I'm looking for running shoes and I type into Bing running shoes, and if you sell running shoes, then there's a chance that you may come up on the search engine results assuming you have the word running shoes on your website. Now you may think that that's a stupid example, because if you are selling running shoes, then the chances are that you have the word running shoes on your website. And you'd be surprised how often something as basic as that businesses miss out on. I had a client who sold appliances like toasters and blenders and juicers, things like that, things that you will find in a kitchen. And in the industry, when you are the manufacturer or the seller of these equipment, there's a term that you use, and the term that you use for that is called kitchen electronics. That's what you use as a jargon in that industry. However, when a consumer is looking to buy these equipment, they don't use the word kitchen electronics, they use the word kitchen appliances. And so for this client of mine, he did not have the word kitchen appliances anywhere on his website, and so he would not show up on the searches when people would go and search for kitchen appliances. So it's very important that when you are thinking about what information to put on your website, that you understand what your customers or potential customers are going to be looking for. Because if you get that wrong, your entire search engine optimization strategy will not work properly. Now, talking about jargons, when you go and talk to SEO consultants, they will use jargons. They will tell you not to use jargons, but they will use jargons. And one of the jargons they will use is a SERP, S-E-R-P. And they will tell you, okay, let me take a look at your SERP results and see what it's like. And you might sit there and go like, SERP, what's that? Right? SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page. And what that means is that when you type something into a search engine, you get a page of results. And those results page is essentially has two distinct areas. The first area is on the upper on the top of the page, and the second one is on the right hand side column. And this is true for both Google and Microsoft Bing. This area, the one on the top and on the right, is your let me go back, is your paid areas. So in essence, businesses have paid to be on this area, and the more you pay, generally speaking, this is not always true, but the more you pay, the higher you will be on this paid area. So for example, it is possible that Honda.ca had paid more than LincolnCanada.ca to be listed above Lincoln Canada. Now, I'm not going to get into advertisement today, but generally speaking, that's true, but it's not always true. Sometimes people who pay less are ranked higher on paid results as well, but that's for another webinar. The second key area on the search engine results page is your organic search. This is the area where nobody has paid to be ranked, but they are ranked because they had the proper content formatted in the right way. Okay, so the two areas for the search engine results page, or SERP, are your advertisement and your organic search area. Now, you may not always see the paid advertisement on the right hand side or on the top. Sometimes you may see the search engine or the paid searches at the bottom of the page as well. So that position may change frequently. Now, generally speaking, and this will vary from industry to industry, that will vary from location to location, but generally speaking, what you will have on the paid searches is about 25 to 30% clicks, and on the organic searches about 70 to 75% of the clicks. What that means is that for every 100 people that have searched for a particular term, about 25 to 30 of them may click on the paid search, but a vast majority of them, 70 to 75% of them, will click on an organic search. And when I mean on an organic search, I mean generally speaking, it will be the first page organic results. By the time you get to the second page, the percentage drops off significantly. They are on the single digits. But even on the first page, most of the clicks will happen in the first 3 to 5 links. So the bottom of the first page is also not very good. If you're going to do search engine optimization, you probably want to be on the top 3 to 5 areas. Now, that doesn't mean that I am discounting, even though most of the people are going to click on the organic search, that doesn't mean that you should ignore the paid search completely. So if you are having difficulty getting on the first page or getting on the top of the first page organic results, then it's possible that a paid search is not necessarily a bad idea for you. There are potentials there, and that's an option for you. And if you are doing organic search, you better be on the first page and potentially on the top of the first page. Otherwise, your efforts will more or less be wasted. Having said that, you can imagine that it will be very difficult to get on the top of the first page. Well, not necessarily. If you do it properly, the chances are that you can actually get to the top of the first page, and I'll come back to that later on in the webinar. So, talking about the basics of basic elements of particularly Google ranking, the fact is that nobody knows, except for a few handful of people at Google, what the elements of ranking are. It's not something that is publicly available. Actually, this is probably very small for you to read. This may be a little bit better for you to read, but I will include this when I send out the recording to everybody. I will include this particular slide for you to download as well. It is estimated that there are about 130 or so elements that will impact your search engine ranking. So there are a lot of elements and we don't know what those elements are. Having said that, over the years, people have figured out what the main elements are, and even Google and Microsoft have actually publicly said that some of these elements are important, actually very important. And there are two things that you need to understand when you're doing search engine optimization. One is that you have to do it on page optimization, which means you have to do certain things on your website on every single page. And the second thing is off-site optimization. So people that are linking back to you are also very important. But it's not only important things that you should do, but you should also look at things that you should not do. If there are things that you do may have a negative impact on your search engine optimization. So for example, violations here, if you are stuffing your website with keywords, in other words, your content is not human readable, but you have just put in keywords that you think will be picked up by Google. If you're doing this, you will actually be penalized for doing that, and it will have a negative impact on you. If you're doing things like buying links, which is paid links over here, that will have a negative impact on your website. So don't do things like that. So it's important that you understand things that you should do to improve your search engine optimization, but also things that you should not do that will impact your search engine optimization negatively. So some of the basic elements, as I said, there are many more. There are about 130 or odd that people think that are, but here are some of the main ranking factors that you should pay attention to. As I've already said, keyword is important. If you don't have a keyword on your website with which the users, your customers, are going to search for you, then you're missing the boat. You must make sure that you have the right keywords. Beyond that, you also want to make sure that your quality, the content of your quality of your content is good. If it's not a very good quality content, then you're not going to rank better. The freshness of that content has to be good as well. So for example, if you have content on your website that is let's say 6 months old versus your competitor whose content is 6 years old, even though the content may be somewhat similar, you will rank better than your competitor because your content is fresher or more recent. Now, people talk about using blog, right? Why you should do blogging for marketing. This is one of the reasons why you should be doing blogging, because blogs will keep the content fresh if you are blogging regularly. Let's say you're blogging every week and your competitor is not blogging at all, then of course your content is going to be fresher than your competitors. Domain authority is important, but it is one of those things, especially if you're a small business, that you have no control over. And some of the factors that I'm going to talk about here, some of them you will have no control over. And if that's the case, don't worry about that. So there are certain domains that will always have more authority than other domains. So for example, government websites, any website that ends in .gov, for example, or educational websites, websites that ends in .edu, for example, will have a much greater authority than joeplumber.com in your city, right? You simply, if you're a small business, you simply will not have the domain authority of a larger business or a government organization or an educational education. If you can't do anything about it, don't worry about that, even though it's an important factor. And I will come back to that in just a minute as well. The second important factor, or another important factor, is trust. Do people trust you? Do you have trust element on your website? So for example, if you are a member of a Chamber of Commerce and you show the logo of your Chamber of Commerce, that will build trust on your website. If you are a member of the Better Business Bureau, if you are a member of your trade association, if you are a member of an organization that's highly trusted in your industry, if you put logos, their logos on your website, that will build trust and that will improve your ranking as well. Domain age is another important factor. How long have you owned the domain, not just in the past, but also going into the future? If you have just registered a domain versus your competitor who had a domain registered for the last 10 years, your competitor will have a higher ranking than you simply based on domain age, assuming that everything else is same. But if you also have registered a domain just for next 1 year versus if you register a domain for next 5 years, a domain registered for over longer period will have a higher ranking than a domain registered for a shorter period. So if you are serious about your business, you may want to register your domain name for a longer period. Then there's a links to your website. How many of those people, other people that are linking back to your website? So if you have a website that have been linked by 100 other businesses or 100 other people versus your competitor who may only have, let's say, 2 links coming to his website, you may rank better. Having said that, quality of those links are also important. So if you have 100 links coming to you that are all from your friends and your neighbors and your family versus your competitor who may only have 2 links coming to his website, but they are from a government website or they are from a major news website, then he will rank better than you even though he has far less links because his links are quality links and yours may not be quality link. The thing that is becoming more and more important because of social media is engagement. How are you engaging with other people? If you have a Facebook page, are you engaging with people on Facebook page? If you have a Twitter page, are you engaging with people on the Twitter page? If you have a blog on your own website, are you engaging with other people on your own blog via comment sections or are you not? That's becoming important. And I suspect that it will become even more important with the importance of social media over the next 12 to 18 months. So if you don't have social media strategy, I suggest you get one because it will have an impact on your search engine ranking as well. And of course, there are many more elements to ranking better on search engines. The 2 that I'm going to talk about today and the 2 that are most important are the keywords and the links to your website. Those are the 2 most important elements that you need to work on when you start building your SEO strategy. With keywords, make sure that you also have the content, quality of your content, make sure that you also have the domain authority, and that kind of falls into the links, and I'll come back to that in just a second. I've already spoken about trust and domain age, so make sure that you have worked with those 2 areas. With regards to links, it's not just the links, but the quality of the links, as I just mentioned, and the engagements with the social media as well. So let's talk about the keyword first. The first thing you need to do when you're establishing your keyword is to do your research. What keywords are you going to use in your content? If you are selling kitchen appliances, are you going to use kitchen electronics as your keywords or are you going to use kitchen appliances in your keywords? Get into inside the head of your customer and understand what keywords they are going to use to search for your type of business or your type of product. It's very important that you get it right. The first thing I will do is I will go to Google and I will just type in the keyword and look for auto suggestions. In other words, and you're probably familiar with this, when you start typing in a keyword, Google will give you some suggestions, right? If I'm typing in digital camera, what other keywords could I be using to enhance my keyword factor? So if I sell digital cameras, for example, should I be using keywords for digital reviews or digital camera reviews, for example? Do I want to have a review section on my website? Do I want to have a digital camera comparison on my website? Because you know that people are searching for those terms. The second thing is your related searches. Now, this is not necessarily going to appear on every search result, but in some search results it does. When you search for something and you scroll all the way to the end of the page on Google, you will see what's called a Google related search results, and it will tell you some other searches that you may want to optimize your site for. So, for example, waterproof digital cameras, top 10 digital cameras. Do you want to use those words as well, keywords as well, because those are the keywords people are searching for. The next thing I will recommend that you do is you use a Google keyword tool, which is free to use. Before I show you the Google keyword tool, let me show you what I mean by auto suggest and related searches. So if I search for digital camera, as you can see, Google starts telling me potential keywords that might be useful. So if you want to optimize your website, assuming that you sell digital cameras, that's what we are assuming here, then do you want to also do keywords like digital camera reviews, digital camera comparison? And as I said, if you scroll all the way down, you will notice the other related searches that will show up at the bottom. So look at those keywords that might be important for you as well. So let me go back to the keyword tools that I was going to show you. So if you go to Google and just type in keyword tool, the first result is probably going to be the one Google keyword tool that you want to go to. And there are, there we go. And there are two ways you can use the keyword tool, and I'll show you both ways in just a second. The first one is to add the word or the phrase, the keyword or the keyword phrase. So our keyword phrase is digital camera, and let's see if I can get this captcha right. Did I get it right? No, yeah, I got it right. So when you search for that keyword that you're interested in, Google will tell you a couple of things. The first thing it will tell you is what other keywords you can potentially use with the keyword that you just set. So digital camera is your key phrase that you're using, but can you use other keywords? Things like Canon, waterproof, rating, Olympus, best compact. So these are other keywords that you may need to look at and see, are they important for you and should they be on your website? Next to each of those keyword phrases, it will tell you how good or how high or low the competition is. Now this competition figure is coming from paid advertisement, not from organic searches. So this is coming from people who are actually paying to be on the paid side of the listing, on the right hand side or on the top of the page. Having said that, they also very closely relate to the organic search. So for example, if this Canon digital camera has a medium competition in the paid search, the chances are that also have a medium competition in organic search. In other words, other people are also trying to optimize their website for that keyword. It will tell you your global monthly search, and the monthly search is always the previous calendar month. So we are doing this in August, and the previous calendar month was July 2012. So the global search that is worldwide for the month of July was 450,000 for this particular keyword term, and the local monthly search was about 18,000. Now when I talk about local, that means local in the country, and for me the country is Canada. It's not local in terms of British Columbia or Vancouver where I am, but the whole of Canada. So it's not really that local. The local is unfortunately country level. As you go down these lists, you will notice that some of these terms have a lot of competition. Some of them are actually heavy competition, and then there are others that does not have a lot of competition, and I'll come back to that point in just a second as well. So that's one way to figure out what keywords you want to use for your website, is to go onto Google Keyword Tool, type in one keyword and Google will give you some other suggestions that you may want to use on your website. The other way, and this is something that I highly recommend, is that you use a website. So let me actually go back to Google for a second and do a search for digital camera in Vancouver. Oops. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I don't sell digital cameras and I don't know who my competitors are. You probably know who your competitors are. So what you want to do, in this case, I did digital camera Vancouver. Let's say I was selling digital cameras in Vancouver. My competitor that comes up at the very top is bccamera.com. So I'm just going to copy that URL and I will paste it in the keyword tool. I will paste it under website. What that will do now is that Google will go to that particular website and it will get the keywords that that website is using. So if they were my competitor, I now know what keywords my competitors are using. And you want to do the same thing. You want to look at your competitor's website, run their website through the Google keyword tool and figure out what keywords they are using. They've already done a lot of research for you, so don't necessarily spend time doing this, essentially starting from scratch. You can actually spend time by understanding what your competitors have already done. And if you look at BC Camera, they have optimize their website for a lot of keywords that are very low competition. And if you look at locally, and this is Canada wide, not just Vancouver wide, the numbers of people who have searched for that is also very low, right? And here's the thing, and I'll mention this briefly. This is more of an advanced strategy, but I will mention this briefly. What's called a long tail keyword strategy. Long tail is essentially means people that are not searching for a lot of things, or not a lot of people are searching for that particular keyword. As you can see, only 46 people in Canada have searched for this particular keyword. That's not a lot of people searching for it. So what happens is that most other competitors are not going to use that keyword to optimize their search, and that's an opportunity for you, because the difference between the long tail and head of the beast or head of the search is this. Actually, hang on to that thought. I will come back to that later in the webinar because there are a couple of other things I want to mention. So I'll come back to the long tail in just a minute. But the keyword tool itself, there's two ways to use it. The first one is enter the keyword that you're interested in, and Google will then tell you what other search terms you may want to think about around that particular keyword. And the other way is to use your competitor's website and see what keywords they are using and see if those are relevant keywords for you as well. Once you have figured out what your keywords are, what do you do with them? Where on your page should these keywords go? And there are several places that are important. The first one is page title. Make sure that your keyword is on your page title. The next is page URL, and by the way, this is in the order of importance that I'm telling you. So make sure the keyword is in your page title, make sure that the keyword is in your page URL, and then of course make sure that the keyword is in the page content, in particular both the headline and the body of the content itself. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I go back to supposedly my competitor, if I were selling digital cameras, so I'll go to BC Camera, and if you notice, the title of the page is here on the very top, right? So digital camera is the very first one, and if you look at the pop-up here, it says digital camera, Broadway camera in Vancouver. Digital camera, Broadway camera in Vancouver, Canada, and then it lists the name of the brand names of the cameras that they sell. So that's the title bit. The way title work is the word on the leftmost area is the most important one, and as you move from left to right, each word will have less importance. So digital in this case is the most important one because it's the one on the left, and digital cameras, if taken together, are the next most important. And then it says Broadway camera in Vancouver, Canada. So remember what my search was: digital cameras in Vancouver, and it picked up from the title tag digital cameras in Vancouver, and that's why it showed up on the top of the list. The second thing is your URL. So in the URL, what you should have is your domain name .com or .org or whatever your domain name is, slash, and then it should have your keyword. In this case, they have a keyword, they have what's called home.php question mark category equals to. That's completely useless, right? What they should have had is bccamera.com slash digital camera, for example, because the digital camera would be keyword. Home.php question mark category equals to is useless. That's a waste, right? So if I were competing against Broadway camera, I now know the weakness that my competitor has, and I can very quickly establish myself as a better ranking website than them because I know what their weaknesses are. Does that kind of make sense? I hope it's making sense to you guys, and if there are any questions, let me know, and I will answer the questions at the end of the webinar as well. Then, of course, you have your content area, which is your headlines, and then this is your other headline, and then the content here. Make sure that the keywords appear in those area as well. So when you are doing your content on the page, make sure that you do it organically, not technically. So avoid over optimization of keywords. Don't say something like, oh, 12% or 15.89% of the words on my page needs to be keywords. No, don't get into that. Write the content that is human readable, and write it in a way that will make sense to a human being, not to a computer. Make sure your keywords are in there, but make it human readable. If you put too many keywords on the page, Google will penalize you for that. So please don't do that. Couple of other things that you want to make sure that your content on your page is correct. If you have images on your page, and I recommend that you do have images on your page, make sure that those image names have the keywords in there as well. So if you have an image of a camera, let's say it's a Canon digital camera, make sure that image name is Canon digital camera. If you have a link to another page for Canon digital camera, make sure that the link is properly coded with the keyword in that link to say Canon digital camera. And make sure that you have the meta description on your page. Now, meta description doesn't have any impact on your search engine optimization. Where it does have an impact on is what shows up on searches. So I'm going to do a search for digital camera Vancouver again. This is the area where your meta description goes, and if you write it properly, then that would make a difference between somebody clicking on this link versus somebody clicking on this link. So for example, if I was looking to shop and it says shop for digital camera, I might click on this one. But if I was looking for accessories or camera bags, I might actually click on this link rather than the first or the second link, right? So make sure your description for that page is marketable, right? People may click on a link based on how you're describing it. So that's an important bit to remember as well. Right, now the second thing is offsite optimization, which is building your links. When you're building the links, keep in mind the link authority. Let me see if there's a question here. So the question that is being asked by Samantha is how many keywords is an average number. So Samantha, it's again, I'm going to suggest that you don't worry about the number, right? Don't worry about the technical bits. As I said, organic versus technical, right? Don't worry about the numbers. And if it's like, as I said, if it's 21.73% and you have to make sure that you have 21.73% of the words on your page needs to be keywords. No, it's not like that. What it needs to be is that the paragraph or couple of paragraphs that you have written have keywords. If it has one keyword, it's not enough, right? If it has 100 keywords, that's too many. The question is, what's the right keyword? It's obviously more than one, it's obviously less than 100, but what's the right number? Don't worry about it too much, right? And particularly after the Panda update. So Panda is the most recent update that Google did, and they have started penalizing people who are doing technical optimization rather than organic optimization. Over the years, Google has gotten really good at dissecting content on the page and figuring out if that content was written for computer analysis or that content was written for human readability. And if it's not written for human readability, then Google will and has penalized those websites. So don't get into worrying about how many numbers, how many keywords you must have. Rather worry about write a paragraph that's human readable and then see if you can put in keywords in that content. That's the right way to do it. Okay, going back to link building. The first thing you need to understand is the link authority. As I said earlier, every website has a domain authority. Some will have more domain authorities, others not so much. So government organization will have a lot more domain authority than Joe Plumber, right? Every domain name, every page, as a matter of fact, on the internet, as far as Google is concerned, has been ranked from 0 to 9. 0 meaning very low rank, high meaning very high rank. Now, when you are getting a link from another website, the rank of that website will determine the quality of the optimization for you. So as I said earlier, if I have a website with 100 links from my friends and neighbors and family versus you have 2 links coming to your website from ABC News and from whitehouse.gov, you will rank a lot better than I will rank, even though I have a lot more links than you, right? Because the quality of the links that I have are very low quality. They may be page rank 0s and 1, whereas the quality of the links that you have may be 7 and 8, right? So your qualities are much better than mine, and so you will rank better. So it's not just how many links you're getting, it's also what the quality of those links are. So when you're thinking about getting links to your website, start by thinking low-hanging fruits. What are the low-hanging fruit? Most of the social media websites, at least the major social media networks, have a good quality rank. They rank somewhere between 6 and 8. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, YouTube, Pinterest, Foursquare, they all have a page rank of somewhere between 6 and 8. And the easiest way is you go and you create a profile on these social media websites and get a link back to your own website. Right? It's a low-hanging fruit. You create a profile on social networks and you get a link back to your website, and these are good quality links. So that's a low-hanging fruit. Other low-hanging fruits are your local trusted website. As I already mentioned, Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau, trade association and organizations. If you are a member of any of those, make sure that you're also getting a link back from them. If you are a member of a Chamber of Commerce, most Chamber of Commerce list the name of their members on their website. Make sure that other than just listing your name and your business name, they're also giving a link back to you because they probably have a better rank than you do, right? If you attended a webinar a couple of weeks ago where we talked about getting low cost or free publicity for your small business, we talked about getting publicity from your local newspaper and your news media like radio and TV, right? Use them to get those good quality links back to your website. If you support any charities, if you support any schools, make sure you get a link back to your website. These are all good quality links, and these are all low-hanging fruit. It's not going to be very difficult if you put some effort into it to get a link back from these people. And I will recommend, just like we use the Google keyword tool to figure out who your what keywords your competitors are using, there's another tool called OpenSiteExplorer.org, which you can use to see who is linking to your competitors. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to use BC Camera as assuming they were my competitor, and so I'm just copy the URL here, and let me go to the Open Site Explorer, and I will enter my competitor's name in there, and I'll search for that, and it will tell me who is linking back to them or who is linking back to my competitor. So as I can see, some of the sites that they're getting linked from is Demos. Demos, by the way, is a search engine as well, like Google and Bing. You may not have heard from them because it's an open source website. However, it's a very important website, and it is highly ranked website. So as you can see, getting a link from Demos to your website could impact your search engine optimization. As you can see, for them, the domain authority, this is the page authority and domain authority, this is out of 100, and Demos website is 98 out of 100. That's how highly valuable that domain authority is. I don't know what the Google PageRank is, but based on the domain authority of 98, I will suspect that Demos' PageRank is somewhere between 7 and 8. So if you can get a link from Demos, that actually will have a massive improvement on your website, right? They have a link from Performance Drivers Club. So you can go back to them and see, okay, why is Performance Drivers Club linking to them, and can I get them to link to me as well? Educational, no, this is their own website, so that's not. Lexmark.com, they are linking to them. So, again, can I go back and figure out how I can get a link from them as well, right? So if you go through this list, it will tell you who else is linking to these people, and see if you can get a link from those organizations on those websites as well back to you, as they're giving the link back to your competitor as well. So this essentially gets us to the major basics of your search engine optimization, which is getting your keyword right and getting your links correct. Beyond that, I'm not going to get too much into that, but I want to mention some of the other things you should be looking at. If you are a local company, if you are a local business, make sure that you are not ignoring local search. Local search is very important and is one of the easiest way to be on the top of the search page by getting on local maps. Google Local Map or Google Local, which has now been replaced by Google Plus. So if you do not have a Google Plus business page, you are missing out on this. Get a Google Plus business page, because that will put you automatically into Google Local, and that will have an improvement in your search engine results as well. Make sure you also get on Bing Local as well as Yahoo Local. Those are important local searches as well. As I mentioned earlier, the second largest search engine after Google is not Microsoft Bing, but it's YouTube. Make sure that you get a video or two, and it doesn't mean that you have to have yourself on the video. It doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money on your video. It can be something very simple. We have a YouTube channel. What do we put in there? After we do a webinar, we actually upload our webinars on our YouTube channel, right? That's a video that's now searchable on YouTube, the second largest search engine out there. And if you're interested on video marketing 2 weeks from today, we are going to have a webinar on video marketing as well. And then of course, get on the online directories. If you have a local directory like your Yellow Pages, get on the Yellow Pages. Then you may have other local directories. Make sure you get on those local online directories as well. I mentioned earlier about the long tail keywords, right? If you should go for the keywords that are highly competitive or keywords that are not very competitive and not a lot of people searching for that. If you are selling products, I highly recommend that you look at long tail keywords. 2 reasons for that. One is because most of the time they are not very competitive, so it's very easy to rank better for them. But the second important reason is this research versus a purchase mode for the consumer, for your customer. So if I was thinking about buying a digital camera, where do I start my search? I would start my search by going to Google and typing in digital camera, right? Because right now I don't know. I only know that I want to buy a digital camera. I don't know what type of camera I want to buy. I don't know where I want to buy it. I am in a research mode. And people go out and they spend a lot of resources trying to optimize their website for these highly competitive keywords that are research keywords essentially, right? But if I go and I am now, after I've done my research and I am now ready to buy, what are the 2 things I am looking for? Number 1, I've figured out what type of camera I want to buy. So I know it's a digital camera. I know the brand name. It may be Olympus, it may be Canon, it might be one of the brand names, and I probably also know the model number for that particular camera that I'm interested in buying. The second thing I want to know is where I'm going to buy it, right? So I would do a search, for example, digital camera Canon model number M26 in Vancouver. That's a long tail keywords. Not a lot of people are going to search for it, but people who are going to search for it are the ones who are ready to buy that particular camera in that particular city. So instead of me spending resources trying to optimize my website for digital camera, which will be highly competitive and will be difficult for me to rank on the rank highly on a page, what if I spend the same resources optimizing for long tail keywords, which not a lot of people who are going to search for it, but people who are going to search for it are the ones that I want because they have their credit card out and they're ready to buy. I hope that kind of made sense. And as I said, this is more of an advanced thing, and when we do an advanced strategy on SEO, we will discuss a little bit more about that. But long tail keywords are very important, and keep that in mind. The other thing is, make sure that you're getting reviews. If you have customers who are thanking you because you have done a good job, you have provided a good service, you have provided a good product, ask them if they can give you a link back from their own website. Get them to engage with you on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, because those things are going to get important in the future as well. So that's pretty much it for our webinar today. And before I take on any questions, I will let you know that I am going to post the link to the recording of the webinar on our LinkedIn group. So you can get that at linked.in/small-business-accelerator. If you haven't joined our LinkedIn group yet, please do so. You can also join our Facebook group and our Twitter group if you like. And of course, if you want to attend our future webinars, and if you have not joined us as a member yet, please go to Small Business Center. Notice that there is no E in the end. It's CENTR. And join. The membership is free, and then you can attend our future free webinars as well. Next week we are going to do a webinar on landing page optimization, which is somewhat related to search engine optimization, and we are going to figure out, and we're going to talk about how to optimize each particular landing page. And the week after that, as I mentioned, we are going to do a webinar on video marketing, so feel free to register for those. And for September and October, we will get those scheduled out shortly as well.